let's get a little bit more perspective on what's going on from ESPN, FTN Fantasy. Aaron Schatz is on the North Homestead Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram hotline. Aaron, thanks a million for joining us. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, man. It's been a busy off season, but I'm ready to get started.
It's almost over, my friend. We're almost there. I'm ready for camp, and I'm ready for some football on all levels. But obviously, it's a year for the Browns that we're waiting to see what happens, and can they pull off a miracle and be something that everybody thinks they're not? Who knows? They've got 4 quarterbacks to go into this thing. So let me start with that question. Do you think the Browns can go into the regular season with 4 quarterbacks on the roster?
No, I don't think they're going to go with 4 quarterbacks on the roster. My guess is that whoever loses the job between Pickett and Flacco, they might try to flip somewhere else and keep both rookies. Because it doesn't make sense to use the draft picks on the rookies and then not keep both of them. But Sanders is a 5th, so I suppose you could try to drop him to the practice squad. I can't imagine they're going to do 4 quarterbacks.
Which guy and I say this, obviously, to me, the answer, Aaron, is whichever guy doesn't play the best. But are you thinking you're keeping 2 rookies or are you keeping 2 veterans? Because it clearly is going to come down that way. I don't know how you give up on the rookies if you think either one of them has any chance of playing down the road. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you completely. Well, it's hard for me to put myself in the Browns' brain because I would never have really drafted Dylan Gabriel. Like, that was a surprise to a lot of people, and it was a surprise to me. But clearly they see something in him. They took him in the 3rd round. So I see something in Sanders. So I would think you would want to keep both of them. So, yeah, I would think the best thing for them to do is whichever veteran doesn't win the camp battle, they either try to flip to a team that's had an injury or they cut. But I don't know if that's what they're going to do. It sort of depends on what the 2 rookies show. It's very difficult to imagine a world where they cut Gabriel. You just don't cut 3rd-round picks. You don't send them to the practice squad. They make the team. But it sort of depends on what Sanders does to see whether they keep him.
Aaron, size up the AFC North for me. Pittsburgh's in a weird spot. I would just, here they are. They've got a quarterback that's been successful throughout his career, with the exception, the New Yorkers will probably argue with me on that. But, you look at what Pittsburgh is, and we already know what Baltimore, and you have to respect the out of Cincinnati's quarterback situation.
Well, our numbers love Baltimore. Baltimore was our number 1 team the last 2 years. So our numbers think Baltimore is fabulous. Doesn't see a particular reason why they've failed in the playoffs. They've just played against good teams and had things not quite go their way. And it's not like they've gotten clobbered in the playoffs or anything like that. So Baltimore looks very strong. Cincinnati obviously has a great offense and questionable defense. Pittsburgh, yeah, like you said, I'm just not a Rodgers believer. He did not play well, and it's not like they didn't give him good receivers. He had Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams, and he had a reasonable offensive line. So I think the problem is that Rodgers just doesn't have it anymore, and we see their defense actually taking a little bit of a step back.
Aaron, if you're the Browns and you go into training camp and you have Jerry Jeudy at wide receiver and then nothing but question marks, what are you thinking? Is that okay from your perspective and the way that you study the NFL?
Dude, look at a lot of things about this team that are not okay, right? I mean, I think the first thing is I think the Browns are in this mindset, which is it's not going to happen this year. We're building for the future. So what we need to do is get young players some playing time and figure out what they can be. What can Cedric Tillman be? What can, Jamari Thrash be? But they don't have a lot of those receivers that are young that they can see what they are going to be. Tillman's in his 3rd year. Thrash is in his 2nd. So, we know Jeudy, right? He's, really good. What can Fannin be, right, at tight end? I think their defense is going to be very good. There's a lot of talent on this defense. There's a very good defensive coordinator. There's a very strong chance of a rebound. We know they were very good 2 years ago. What happened last year was, first of all, they don't get that much pressure outside of Garrett, and Mason Graham should help with that a lot. The other is the secondary did not play well last year, but secondary performance is very inconsistent. And the secondary had played well the year before. So it's definitely possible that Ward, Emerson, Newsom, those guys all bounce back this year, and that this defense is pretty good. The problem is that the offense looks awful.
It's funny because a lot of things you said that I've kind of thought, and it's like, okay, if they want to get young, give young guys a chance and start grooming towards the future, that this is an opportunity. And then Myles Garrett says, hey, I want to go. I want to go. I want to go. And then they figure out a way to get him to stay. Is that kind of not a conflict of interest, but it takes two philosophies and kind of takes them in different ways, where they could have got a giant haul for Myles if they wanted to trade him. No one here wanted to see him trade him, but if you were truly planning for the future, would you have not traded him?
The problem is Garrett is so good that in 2 or 3 years, he's still going probably to be that good. It's not like you're trading a guy who in 2 or 3 years is going to decline for a bunch of stuff. You're trading a guy who in 2 or 3 years is probably going to still be one of the top 2 or 3 defensive players in the league for a bunch of stuff. So I see the reason to keep him. And I've got to think that Garrett knows that as much as he said he wanted to play for a winner, that it's not happening this year. They probably gave him assurances about building and what they think they can do in 2026. But it's not happening. It's not happening this year. And I think he knows that.
How do guys balance the idea, Aaron, when they throw out like Myles Garrett that, I want to play for championships and everything else, which is, that sounds great. And then the reality strikes and you get dangled ungodly money in front of you. To me, there's no question. In that sport, you take the money. Do you not? I think the words ring hollow most of the time.
It's hard for me to know. I've never had that money dangled in front of me.
Join our club.
To have it happen, and I have a feeling I would take it if it was there. I think when you get older, when you're in your early 30s, mid 30s in the NFL, then if you've never won, you go ring chasing. Then you sign with good teams. DeAndre Hopkins signing with Baltimore, that kind of thing, maybe for a little less money for the chance for a ring. When you're in your prime, like Garrett is, you get all the money you can get, and that's what he did.
Aaron, if you're Kevin Stefanski and you're looking at this, again, I talk about like these tug-of-war conversations you might have. Like if you're the Browns and you think, oh, we're going to be a fourth-place team and we're really looking for the future, we want to figure out who our quarterback is. Do we not want to have to maybe combine our 2 first-round picks next year to have to go get a quarterback in the draft? If you're Kevin, and the ownership has been good to him. I mean, I don't know if there's every team in the league would have kept him for this season and kept everyone there. How many wins does he need to get to keep his job, or what does he need to do? Is it just a matter of showing improvement and showing that the team won't quit? I think Kevin's in a really weird spot this year.
I think showing that the team won't quit is a good one. Listen, if they were to get rid of Stefanski, he would get hired by another team.
Yes.
Everyone in the league has a lot of respect for him. I don't think anybody looks at the situation in Cleveland and thinks that this is his fault. I think you can blame ownership. I think you can blame management. I think you can look at players that have not developed. But I don't think anybody looks at it and goes, Stefanski is the reason why those players have not developed. Stefanski is the reason why this is. Stefanski made the Watson trade. Like, nobody thinks those things, right? Mm-hmm. So he's very well respected. So if they have a bad season and he is the scapegoat, I think they'll regret it.
Interesting.
With that thought in mind, do you think they're on the clock? Do you think he's on the clock? Is Andrew Berry on the clock? And are they a package deal?
I mean, if you're going to try to restart the organization, you restart the organization. Look, I have a lot of respect for Andrew Berry and the front office. And I think that the Watson trade, first of all, at the time, he looked like a very good quarterback.
Yeah, and you're right.
Also, the order probably came from up high. That a trade like that, Haslam's got to okay that. That's not Berry's doing. So I wouldn't look at where this team is and be like, oh, the problem is the management. But I would understand why they would feel like they need to get a fresh start if this season goes really, really badly. Now, here's the thing. If the defense does what I think it's going to do, then I think they'll be able to come out of this season feeling like, okay, well, our defense, that blip in 2024 was a blip. This is still a really good defense. Our coaching staff knows what it's doing. Either we've figured out we have something in Gabriel, or we've figured out we have something in Sanders, or let's go get a quarterback.
Aaron, I do think one of the things fans here are excited about is the running back situation. And yeah, we lost Nick Chubb, and fans are still bummed out about that. But I think, when you bring in a Buckeye, you're probably not hurting yourself at running back here in Cleveland. So the fans will enjoy that too. Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson. This does seem like it could be a pair that could be around here for a long time. It could be a pretty fun. When you look at a season of maybe not pessimism, but just not having gigantic hopes, I think those two guys could have a long future. Just your thoughts on them and what their impact could be on this team.
I mean, I'm an analytics guy. We never get excited about running backs. I don't, I look at them and I'm like, oh,
I'm going to send you a bowl
running,
of sugar or something just to get you hyped up on this.
Back.
Yeah.
Like, yay, good. That's not, are they nice running back? Listen, the reason why we never get excited about running backs is not that these men do not have a lot of talent and work ethic. It's that there's too many of them that have talent and work ethic. Look, the Browns just got two of them. I mean, there's too many good. The problem with running backs is that there's too many good running backs. And so I'm sure these are good running backs, but I don't feel like either of them is going to have neither of them's Ashton Jeanty, right? Ashton Jeanty's the guy who everyone feels like what he can do before contact is so good that he can overcome a bad offensive line. Not saying that the Browns have a bad offensive line, because they have a good offensive line. But these running backs don't seem like they move the needle that much, but they also don't move it backwards. They seem like they're good running backs.
Aaron, will the Browns grow to regret trading Travis Hunter?
Oh, man, isn't that a great question? Because who knows? Yeah, that is one of the great unknowns. If Travis Hunter is a one-way player, then they absolutely made the right trade because they got so much value for that pick, right? The odds that Travis Hunter as a one-way player is that much more valuable than Mason Graham, that he's worth all the picks they got in addition, is just near impossible. But if Hunter can do this two-way thing and is super special, then we have to have a conversation about it. But I absolutely understand why they made the trade. And Mason Graham is a pretty darn good player.
All right, I got to ask you a fantasy question while I got here too. Is there anybody on that Browns roster that you look at and say, okay, that's a guy I would pick, and I would pick him relatively? I'm not saying first round in your own personal draft, but is there anybody that excites you on that? I know analytics, but give me the one guy
he's scraping here.
You would draft on this from there for fantasy perspective.
I use my analytics for fantasy football purposes too. So,
yes.
The answer is no. And it's not, Jerry Jeudy on another team, it would be a different answer. But on this team with these quarterbacks, it's just hard to see him as someone you draft early in your fantasy league. And at running back, it's not like Judkins is like an absolute workhorse. They're going to share the role among all of them. And Njoku's not one of the earlier tight ends to go. So no, there's nobody from a fantasy perspective that is really exciting.
All right, I'm not going to be emotional. Every game's at 1:00 on Sunday. They have one 9:30 a.m. game, and now no one's worth drafting in my fantasy. I'm done. Season's over.
You have to be in like leagues with weird rules.
I'm
and
good
then
with that.
Guys will become drafting the count return yards or something, and then you get on DeAndre Carter. I don't know.
All right, tell me about the FTN Football Almanac that's coming out on July 14th. What am I getting there?
Yeah, this is our book, man. It's available for pre-sale right now at ftnfantasy.com/almanac. And if you buy it before it comes out on Monday, you save $5. The chapters on all 32 teams, all of the fantasy projections, comments about all the skill players, all of our usual wit, all of our usual analysis. There's some surprising projections. There's some less surprising projections. There's a lot of interesting content in there about last year and a lot of interesting content about the year to come. FTN Football Almanac. Go to ftnfantasy.com/almanac to pre-order it. It'll also be on Amazon in about a week and a half.
Aaron, thank you so much, and thanks for making it fun. We appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Aaron.
We'll talk to you soon. Aaron Schatz, FTN Fantasy, ESPN, FTN Football Almanac, out July 14th. The Kevin Stefanski question that I asked him, too, I think Kevin is in like one of the weirdest spots in coaching history. If you take his name away from it and you try to think about the fact that the owner didn't kind of basically come out and say, you know what, it's my fault, or he took the blame for bringing in Deshaun Watson when he said swing and a miss.
He sure didn't put anything on the coach.
No,
that's
he
for
didn't.
Sure.
So now you're in a situation where you've got 4 quarterbacks in, you've got 2 first-round draft picks coming in next year, and Deshaun Watson. So let's just be honest about it. You've got 4, 5, you may have 7 quarterbacks in front of you right now. 2 don't exist on the team yet. What kind of pressure is on Kevin Stefanski? What does he have to prove to come back to make sure that he's got at least one more year?
I think there's always pressure on a head coach. And even though, Andy, we can sit here and say, well, the owner said it was a big swing and a miss and Kevin didn't make the trade, there's still pressure on a head coach to win games. I'm convinced that if they roll out another 3-14, Kevin's not going to be here. I don't think he'll be here.
If I was Kevin, I would almost want a fresh start somewhere else too, to be honest with you. Wouldn't you?
No, you want a job, and he's got a job, and he makes a lot of money.
You heard what Aaron said.
He's heavily invested here, and he said he'd get another job,
and he would get another
job. Maybe Kevin's family likes it here. Maybe let's go back to the Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
maybe he likes it here. Remember, Kevin's a very. If you look at his resume, I think you can draw conclusions. He's a very content guy. He's a guy who likes the process. Because he spent 14 years with one organization.
Sure.
He's an NFL coach, Andy, who's been with only 2 teams. I'll wait while we try and find somebody who that fits. How many guys can you think of in the? I can't even think of anybody. I don't know. I would think other than a new coach in the league, a coach who's been in the league under than let's say less than 10 years. I'll bet you he's one of maybe 3 guys who have only been with 2 teams. Those guys are just vagabonds. They go
and that's
everywhere.
Also, but it's interesting that you say that,
which makes me think he'd love to stay here.
Well, I think it's really cute and it's very utopian of you. Sometimes when we have these conversations, you're like, well, where's his family? And oh, look at that. His in-laws are in
sorry,
Atlanta.
You did the whole thing about Kirk Cousins. Well, he liked Minnesota. They loved it there.
They did like it there. That's what I just put the words that came out of his mouth.
Well, Kevin Stefanski is a pro, has worked in 2 places.
Okay.
Period. I'm just saying that to me, I can interpret that.
But he also grew up in Philly too. So don't you think I'd like to go back home?
Maybe, except they have a coach who's pretty damn good.
Well, maybe he wants to get rid of that coach and he wants that gig. That's his dream job. I mean, I just don't.
It might be one. All I'm saying is, if I'm Kevin, I'd probably like to hang on to the job I have because A, I have it, and B, there are only 31 others in the league, and there's no guarantee I'm getting one, despite what Aaron Schatz said. And I think Aaron's right. I think somebody else would hire him.
Well, I don't think it's very easy to get a job, and I do think he would get another job. Worst case scenario, he'd end up as somebody's coordinator in the next year. That's worst case scenario. Is that pay the same? Is the duties a little bit different? Yeah, they're totally different. But if they walk away with this with a 3-win season, not only is the front office, I think, going to be frustrated, but I think Kevin's going to be frustrated too. And that's maybe one of those situations where you say, all right, someone needs to change the scenery. And it's nothing. It goes back to that legendary press conference where Mark Shapiro said, hey, Mark, what kind of a manager are you looking for in the future after he just fired Eric Wedge, who was going to be there till the end of the week? And he goes, I'm looking for a manager like Eric Wedge. And I'm like, then why did you just fire him? Like, there was one of the it was one of the most truthful, insane answers I've ever heard. Because at the time, I don't think he wanted to fire Eric, but I think he felt like everybody just needed to change the scenery at that point. It was strictly business, and I don't think it was anything personal. So, and I think that we would be in that same situation at the end of it here next year if they only have 3 wins. And that's nothing. And by the way, the schedule is
you don't think they survive another 3-win season despite all of the question marks
NFL
and the lack
rules,
of talent.
The law of the NFL says you're 100% right. They do not survive. There's a 3-win season is not I don't know of any coaching staff that's going to survive a 3-win season. I don't care if you've won Super Bowls before.
2 in a row. That doesn't happen.
Oh.
So that they still
we had a coach that won one game in 2 years, right? We had a coach that won one game in 2 years, and everything was going to be better because Hugh Jackson was here, baby. He was here.
Don't blame Hugh for all that.
Well, some of it's on you.
I would say a little bit of it's on you.
The day he stepped out and said Deshaun Kaiser is our franchise quarterback, I was like,
you think he was making that call completely by himself?
No.
I
wouldn't say that, though. Why would you say that?
Why would you say Hugh Jackson's here, baby?
Because he actually said it.
I know. So why would he did say it? And then he went out and said Deshaun Kaiser's our a franchise quarterback.
Andy Baskett's here, baby. I said it. I'm here. Pass me the Strohs. I don't know, does that even exist anymore?
And then I feel it every day.
Yeah, no kidding. I do too. Same thing. The schedule is so hard. I'm just.
It's awful.
Am I the only one that looks at this thing and even if you thought the Browns were a good team, and you felt like they had their quarterback, and you felt like you had a guy that could lead them out on the field and give you a chance on every Sunday, man, I look at that schedule and I cringe.
And if they go 2-4 in the first 6, it's a major accomplishment.